Hi again, it's Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm, and I hope you're in the mood for a plant propagation project today because I've got a good one for you. I'll be installing timed mist above this cutting bench to improve my chances with rooting cuttings. I'm doing it on a bit of a shoestring. I'll be saving hundreds of dollars as compared to installing a professional system, and I'll be doing it with parts that you can hook up just onto the end of your hose and buy the parts on Amazon, so very, very easy. Now, the reason I'm doing this is to improve my chances with cuttings, of course. The dome that you see above here right now, or I'm sorry, the cage you see above here right now, was initially built to tent the plants, to keep humidity in. Of course, when you take cuttings, they have no access to moisture through their roots, so they're very susceptible to drying out. You have to keep some humidity around them to keep them in the game. If you do that with a tent like this, if you keep the humidity right around them, you sacrifice air circulation, and that can make your cuttings a little more susceptible to rotting. So the benefit of using an open area with timed mist is that you get the benefit of keeping that humidity up, but you also get the air circulation that staves off the susceptibility to rot, and so your overall chances improve. So this project here is relatively easy if you take it step by step, and I'll take you through it today. Starting with a quick description of the parts I'll be using, usually the most expensive part in a setup like this is an irrigation cycle timer. And if you get the professional models, they can set you back anywhere between $300 and $400. This one here is sold at Amazon. It's less than $20. Also, the AC adapter is the other part. That will be used to run the solenoid valve, and the combination of the two of them is under $40. So big savings there. This is the solenoid valve you'll be using. I chose one of the most commonly available ones that people use for sprinkler irrigation in their yards, so it too is very inexpensive. For the mist itself, I've chosen some of the cooling mist setups that you can find, again, inexpensively on Amazon. This is the kind of thing that people would set up on their back patio during the hot summer to provide some cooling mist, and it will suit our purposes just fine. And then to make it all work, there's a couple of fittings just to adapt between the hose end that I'll be hooking it up to into the solenoid valve, and then out from the solenoid valve back into this misting system. These home misting kits are super simple in their setup. You have the misting heads over on the left there, you have the fittings, the tube, and then you have the place where you attach the hose. So let's get started here. What you first do is you cut off a piece of the tube to reach the place where you want to put your first mister. So the distance from the hose end to your first mister. This piece here came like this. I just detach it like this. I'm taking this part and sliding it over the end of the black tube, and then I take this and slide it all the way in, and then use this to fix it in place. And then I take my filter and my grommet and place them back into the end there and attach them to the hose. When you come to the place where you want a misting nozzle, that's pretty easy to put in. You take this T compression fitting, push the tube into one side, push the nozzle down into the bottom, and then take your next piece of tube and attach it to the other side, and then you just run them in series like that. Here it is attached to the hose end, and I have the hose on right now because I want to show you that it's easy to tie off the end and check the pattern while you're doing the installation. You can see I've got one running over there and one running over here, but to me it looks like there's quite a gap between them, so I'm going to install at least one more in between those two heads and get my spacing down. And now with the spacings all sorted out, I hope you can see that I've got a nice, relatively even mist that covers the entire bench from end to end and without any major gaps in between. Well, the main point of all of this is to make it so that you don't have to stand around and try to control this valve all day and run that mist yourself. So we're going to use a solenoid valve, that's the black thing you see in the center there, to switch the water on and off. it's going to react to a signal it's going to get from that timer and that AC adapter, so that it will turn on and off in cycles that, to me, the first setting on this that I'm going to try is somewhere in the range of 10 seconds every 10 to 15 minutes. That seems about right in my climate, my greenhouses, and with my previous experience. It may vary in your climate if you have shade or any other circumstances. So if you look at the solenoid valve itself, it shows an arrow on that input end of the solenoid. That means that that's the end that's going to connect to the hose, the source of water. The other end is going to have to connect to the misting system. So I have to adapt the left-hand side of this, or the input end, to connect to the male end of a hose, and I have to adapt the output side to connect to the female end of the misting system. Happily, those fittings are easy to come by. I found them in my local hardware store, but I've put a listing of those on my Amazon store as well, just so you know exactly what I'm talking about. This to make the female end to connect to the male end of the hose. Screw this in. You can see that I've applied some Teflon tape to these NPT threads just to avoid the risk of leaking. So you can see that would fit onto the male end of a hose, and then on the other side to fit the female end of the misting system adapter. Screw that in, and now it's ready for installation. Here is the final setup. We just have regular household power running through to that timer, and the timer then has the AC adapter running on it. That provides 24-volt power all the way through to our solenoid here. We have a water supply on one end, and we have the output being this misting system. I'd like to give you a quick tutorial on this timer, because although it is a fantastic savings, it's kind of a pain to run. So I'm hitting the reset button so we can start in the same place. It defaults to 12 a.m. Hit the confirm button and hold it until it flashes, and you hit the hour button to move to your current hours. It's on a 24-hour clock, so I've just moved it to 2 p.m. and now it's actually about 2:15 where I am, so I'm going to hit that and then confirm. Now, for some reason that I don't know and can't understand, it has a bell on the right hand side. That means there's an alarm set somewhere, and of course I don't know when that alarm is set for or what it will do when it gets there, but I'm going to turn that off. You hit the confirm button and the minute button at the same time, and that turns off the alarm. Okay, I'm going to proceed to set this up the way I would like for a cycle timer. And to do that, I'm going to hit the switch button and then hold the timing button. And when it gets that command, it's going to divide it into a top portion of the screen and the bottom portion of the screen. The top portion of the screen is going to have the number of seconds it's going to run, and the bottom portion of the screen is going to have the number of seconds or minutes it delays between running. What's kind of funny about this is that it has an hours button and a minutes button, but no seconds button. So for this setting, this cycle setting, you're going to use the minute button for seconds. I've got that up to 10 seconds now. And when you hit the timing button between them, it goes to the bottom there, and now you hit the hours button to set minutes of delay. Confusing, right? Okay, so now we have 10 seconds every 10 minutes. I like that, so I'm going to hit confirm, and it springs right into action. It starts sending power to the outlet, and it's timing down from 10 to 1 and then off, and now it's running a 10-minute delay, which is a beautiful timing. If I plug that in right now, it would work like a dream, except it would be working all day and all night. And I actually don't want timed mist at night, so I'm going to have to set hours of operation for this. To do that, I'm going to hit switch and then timed. So switch on the upper right and then timed. And now it divides it into a top and bottom as well, but the top really is the beginning time of your cycles, and the bottom is the ending time. So in this case, I'm going to use the hours button to say, I would like this to start at 9 a.m. Enough time in the morning for the sun to get on the plants, evaporate what's remaining overnight, and then I want it to continue running. And I'm going to use the timed button to move between the upper and the lower. And I want it to continue running until about 5 o'clock at night, which would be 1700 hours. And hit confirm to accept. And then to run the program on that cycle, so to run the cycle timer within those hours. Right now, it's saying, yes, I'm on, because I'm within those time limits. So to apply the cycle within that time, I have to do a long hold of the timing circulate button, and then confirm. And now it's running the cycle within the window. Thanks so much for watching today as I built this misting system for propagation on the cheap. And just incidentally, this bench that you see it mounted on now, this was one of the first projects I ever did on YouTube. It was a heated bench, heated with heating cables to help the young cuttings and young seedlings to develop roots much faster. I'll also link that one above in the video here. It's a bit of an older video, so I apologize for the quality, but you should be able to get the point. If you have any questions on this project or anything else regarding propagation, please drop those down in the comments of the video, and thanks again for watching.